This is a nothing. Yes, did they play perfect? No, they still win. Yes.
What are you doing if the Celtics win the championship?
If the Celtics win championship, I might break my sobriety. I might act up.
We did it! You got him.
All the way.
Celtics versus Heat. Celtics in what?
4.
Celtics versus Knicks. Celtics in
4.
You got Celtics in 4?
Celtics.
Hell yeah.
Use a vocab word from a couple years ago. It's mind-boggling.
That's it, DRG. Let's go. What do you think tonight? You think I'm worried about the Warriors? I ain't worried about the Let's go, baby. 18, baby. Load up the boat.
Why would you say that?
Because
I'm not. No,
recently he's putting up games like.
Above our head for the players.
Literally right now.
But I think when Marcus, especially Marcus, when he got traded, I think that was a wake-up call.
You think right now
Rob,
it's still New York?
I do. And when I think of the Celtics dynasty, honestly, one of the first names that comes to my mind is actually Brad Stevens.
What is up, everybody, and welcome to the CTW postgame show. I am your host, Seamus Zarlingo. Alongside of me tonight, Griffin Aldridge, and of course, Nick Franco joining me here for an unfortunate postgame show. The Boston Celtics succumb to the Oklahoma City Thunder on the Garden floor, 118-112. This one was a close one throughout. However, the Boston Celtics felt like they were playing from behind for most of this game, then eventually the Thunder run out ahead from the Celtics at the end. A lot to get into with this one. Two finals contenders going head-to-head tonight at the Garden. But as you guys know, initial thoughts. Griffin, we'll start with you.
So I wanted to say, first of all, I was pretty proud of this. Since I've been on the postgame shows, it's been a clean slate with the Celtics doing good. Unfortunately, first lost on the postgame show, but
the streak ends. It has to end at some point.
I wasn't gonna say it. I wasn't gonna say it until it ended, so I finally said it now that it ended. But I'm gonna say this one was a tough one. It's one where I'm not so hurt from. I'm gonna say that it's one where I'm seeing a lot of positives from this game actually, and it's honestly it's shocking because you think about it, we just lost to the Thunder, who we talked about. They're going to have the Celtics are going to have so much fire under them and want to come out and win. But I'm not devastated about this loss because I saw a lot of good things from the Boston Celtics. We obviously saw a lot of negative things. Jaylen Brown obviously not having such a hot night. I feel like if he had his average 20 points around there, it would have been a different score. Obviously, having Porzingis back would have been a different score. Also, we'll have to get into that later. Some updates on him being questionable now. But I saw a lot of positives. And I think when you're facing a great OKC team, and listen, I get they had some players out too, but OKC is a tough team. OKC is a tough team. We all know that. And the Boston Celtics went out there and they played hard. And I'm not saying that, all right, look, they lost and we're playing as underdogs. No, I'm saying this shows if we were in a series, it's going to be a good series because the Boston Celtics I think easily could have won that. You obviously saw OKC taking the lead and kind of controlling the game, most of it, honestly, pretty much the entire game. But the Boston Celtics had parts where they were right in there fighting back. And you add a Porzingis and you have Jaylen Brown on a good night, it's a completely different outcome.
I just saw the Celtics pretty much get outcoached tonight. I think that it was a great game. There was a lot that we could pull from it, but it seemed like the Celtics were just stylistically outmatched. The Celtics were going for the 3-point shots throughout tonight's game, and the Oklahoma City Thunder were pretty much doing almost the exact opposite of anything that the Celtics were doing. Celtics were allowing the Oklahoma City Thunder to penetrate the paint and also allowing for their bigs to have an impact on tonight's game. I think the Celtics did a were getting outmatched on rebounding for a large portion of tonight's game. The Oklahoma City Thunder showed their prominence as the top defensive team in the league, playing a lot of on-ball defense, a lot of hands-up defense, and being able to pull their hands away before it caused a shooting foul. You saw the Celtics weren't able to get to the free throw line compared to the Oklahoma City Thunder, where the Oklahoma City Thunder nearly doubled the Celtics in free throw attempts. And that's mainly just due to the aggressive attack from the Oklahoma City Thunder, and they really the OKC really showed their athleticism and their durability tonight, showing that they will keep the Celtics running throughout the game. Sure, the Celtics can get the hot hand and have those streaks, but the Thunder were just able to maintain a consistent scoring basis against the Celtics, and I think this is a very interesting series if this does end up being the NBA championship. Obviously, I feel like the Celtics would be able to approach these games at a different angle when it comes down to a game to game basis in a playoff series. However, these final games, as we round off the regular season, there's a few highlighted games left on the schedule. The rest are really games that you're just trying to conserve your players and come out of the games healthy while giving your rotational players some opportunities at some minutes that they wouldn't get heading into the playoffs. And this was definitely one of those games that you wanted to see the Celtics be able to pull out a win and really be able to handle themselves against these Cleveland Cavaliers and the Oklahoma City Thunder as they close out the season. But it now kind of leaves a little bit of confidence and for these teams as they draw nearer to playoffs. It shows that the Celtics have some vulnerabilities that can be exposed, and I just think that there were definitely some coaching adjustments that needed to be made, and the Celtics weren't able to do that tonight.
Now, let's dive into the stat sheet on this one because the Boston Celtics, Franco, you kind of alluded to it in your statement there. The Boston Celtics tonight, they were historical from beyond the arc and really in a debatable way whether that or not that historic mark was good or bad because it wasn't about makes, it was about attempts. Tonight, the Boston Celtics took 22 three-pointers in the first quarter. They were 9 of 22 from three after one, however, trailed the Oklahoma City Thunder by three after the first quarter. And then by halftime, the Boston Celtics had shot 36 three-pointers on the night by half, and that was the most in a half in NBA history. NBA history. And tonight, of course, at half, the Boston Celtics were 15 of 36 from beyond the arc at half. They finished the game 20 of 63 three-point attempts. Don't have the exact stat on this, but I'm guessing that that is the high for the entire season. I believe 61 was the high previously coming into tonight. The Boston Celtics took 61 three-point shots against the New York Knicks on opening night. They set their season high on opening night, never topped it again until tonight. 63 three-point attempts for the Boston Celtics. And just to add on to that, 4 of 25 in the second half for the Boston Celtics. Of course, at halftime, they entered 15 of 36, finished the game 4 of 25, and of course, come out and shoot 20 of 63 from the floor. And actually, they might have made one more three in that equation there, just looking at it in the second half. I took that note at the end of the fourth quarter, so might have made another three within there. But the Boston Celtics, they prolifically shoot the ball tonight. And really looking at the lead tracker, we could tell, even with that three-point shooting, the Boston Celtics were really in a match in which they were really behind most of the time. Look at the lead tracker. That's a lot of blue. It actually looks like a legitimate ocean. I mean, it looks like an actual ocean. It's not the sea of green we want to see. We always want to see that sea of green, but this is a choppy sea of blue for the Boston Celtics at the Garden as they succumb to the Oklahoma City Thunder by 6 at the end. But you see there, the Thunder and the Celtics, they were head to head. They were real close there in the fourth quarter. It was within 5 for halfway through the fourth quarter. It was within 5. Felt like the Celtics and the Thunder were going back and forth there for a bit. But as we see within the lead tracker, the Thunder kind of put together a nice little fourth quarter run there at the end and steal the game. I shouldn't even say steal the game from the Boston Celtics, because let's face it, I mean, if the Celtics would have won this game, they would have stole this game from the Thunder. But the Thunder came in and really took what was rightfully theirs, or what they felt like was rightfully theirs at the end of the game, the way the Thunder played. But you guys see that lead tracker in there, and we talk about the 3-point shot with the Boston Celtics. We'll kind of ring back around on the Celtics, but the Oklahoma City Thunder dominating the paint tonight, dominating the rebounding battle for most of the night. Now, it does say the Boston Celtics won this game in terms of the rebounding battle by 1, but for most of the night, Oklahoma City was ahead in that category, and it was very evident out on the floor. But looking at that lead tracker specifically, we see that dip and we see that rise at the end for the Oklahoma City Thunder. And we know in this game, the Thunder and the Celtics, they were right there. They were right there at the end with each other. What exactly went wrong, in your guys' opinion, for the Boston Celtics down the stretch in this game? Was it the rebounding? Was the offensive end of the floor? Or was it defensively, the Celtics just not being able to get a stop?
I want to say this. Kind of backtracking on the Boston Celtics live and die by the 3 ball, and playing such a fast team like the OKC Thunder, they're going to shoot a lot more threes, and you obviously saw it tonight. But I think the biggest issue with that is, obviously you saw the Boston Celtics did better in the third quarter, opposed to other games this season where they kind of struggle in the third and fourth quarter. You guys have noticed that. And OKC kind of did their thing in the fourth quarter. I mean, they did their thing all game long, and just coming in there and, I think OKC just wanted this game from the get-go. I mean, you said it looked like an ocean right there. And there we saw little parts of green, like little specks, but we didn't see any big green. We saw OKC's kind of keeping that steady pace, kind of bump down a teeny bit, come rise back up. In that fourth quarter, they were like, all right, Boston, we're tired of you. We want to put this away. And it was just a rough game. I mean, like you said, rebounding, and it's just, OKC is a fast-paced team. All right. They're gonna get rebounds, they're gonna play aggressive. And when you have a young, talented team, they're young. Their feet are young. Their legs are fresh. We obviously have some older players on the team, and obviously Drew Holiday is one of the faster players in the league. But I'm saying, like, they have some young people that want to run and they want to be aggressive. So kind of seeing that, I saw, like, it's one where I'm still hopeful, like, if we face OKC again this season, because you guys saw it last game. We definitely did great in the first half, all right, with Porzingis. Then we crapped the bed in the second. This game, it was I know how bad that looked, but it was close the whole way through until that kind of fourth quarter took off. And I just wanted to say too, with a full team, I think we do better. And honestly, just a rough one for the Boston Celtics, and one that you kind of want to just see them get rid of, because you guys know the Boston Celtics are more than capable to beat this team for sure. But the outcome, you obviously saw that. It was, I love what you said. It was honestly an ocean. It was an ocean from the Thunder, and they just were like, all right, Boston, we're getting through you guys tonight.
The Boston Celtics didn't control the tempo on their home court tonight whatsoever. The Thunder had full control of tonight's narrative and were really playing the game at their own pace. And when the Celtics are doing that, you really see them playing from behind, and it's been a common factor for the Celtics is when they get punched in the mouth early, it's how will they respond. We don't really see too often where the Celtics are the ones playing catch up with the other team. It's usually the other way around. But in situations where you're facing off with teams like the Oklahoma City Thunder, who have the depth to continue having rotations that are fresh and can compete with your starting lineups, and also can play to the benefactor of their star player, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who had an amazing night tonight, really showed his made it a case for the MVP candidacy, and they utilized the fact that the Celtics were tilting the floor towards them to create open cutting lanes to the paint, which we've seen the Celtics do in multiple wins this season, and it did open a lot of these 3-point attempts that the Celtics did take tonight. And I know that the Celtics are a high frequency 3-point shooting team. However, when they find that balance and utilize it as an option and really are able to go to those other looks and be able to become triple threats it and cut to the lane and spread the defense out and drag the bigs like Hartenstein and Chet Holmgren out to the corners. I feel like that opens up so many high percentage looks for the Celtics that the Celtics really just weren't able to find. And it was discouraging for me for the lack of second half adjustments that the Celtics made. Obviously, the whenever the Celtics were able to close out the leads and stretches, it was due to the fact that the Celtics were spreading out the ball and being able to find Derek White and Al Horford, who are usually the third, fourth, or fifth options on the court. And that's why you saw Jaylen Brown kind of get taken out of tonight's game, because they took the focus on Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum and had forced the Celtics to try to beat the Oklahoma City Thunder with Al Horford and Derek White, which probably isn't going to work 1 out of 2 times when it comes down to it. So just being able to have those performances out of your star players is necessary, and also being able to get those contributions from your bench is necessary as well.
Now, considering all the 3-point attempts from the Boston Celtics tonight, we saw 63 of them, of course, for the game, 36 in the first half, 22 in the first quarter. Now, even looking at all those attempts and the Celtics, they were hitting at a very high clip early on in the game. 9 of 22, that's not terrible. 15 of 36, that's not terrible. But if you look at the stat line at the end of the night, they're 20 of 63. And even during those moments in which the Celtics were shooting those attempts and hitting at the clip in which they were hitting at, they were still behind the Oklahoma City Thunder. They were behind the Thunder at halftime. They were behind the Thunder the first quarter, and they were behind the Thunder at the end of the game. So looking at the Celtics shooting tonight and looking at the balance of 3s to 2s, because first of all, let's actually diagram this out just a bit here to explain the imbalance between 3s and 2s. Tonight, the Boston Celtics shot 94 times. All right, 94 times. 31 of those 94 shots came from inside the arc. 31. 63 came from beyond the arc. That is just a crazy stat. That is a crazy stat.
Coach nightmare. That's
Yeah.
what I would like to call that.
Well, that kind of gets into my next question here, Franco, though, is did those attempts, was the Celtics shooting effective enough to justify the lopsided number of attempts between 2 and 3?
No, because if they were shooting at a higher percentage from getting their field goal percentage and getting looks from the inside, we saw that having Luke Cornett on the court tonight was very effective against the Thunder team. It allowed a little bit of a paint presence for the Celtics during that time, allowed for one of those good comebacks in the third quarter where you thought the Celtics were going to be able to turn this into a close game going into the fourth quarter. It was I just think that trying to match a high percentage scoring Oklahoma City Thunder team who is getting to the paint, being able to score almost at will against the Celtics defense is a very hard game for the Celtics to play. And just hoping that a few more 3-pointers would have fallen isn't the way you're going to beat the Oklahoma City Thunder. And it's not really going to be the way that you're going to be able to beat a lot of these teams. Obviously, the Celtics are a very talented team and they can get away with it on some nights, but when it isn't falling the way the Celtics anticipated to, they need to be able to make those adjustments and be able to start game planning with a different approach to the offensive side and game plan a few more backdoor cuts. And was a lot of mismatches that the Celtics could have taken advantage of tonight with this Oklahoma City Thunder team. They were missing one of their star wings, Jalen Williams. So that's a player that could have been something that the Celtics could have been able to go around and be able to create some more looks, be able to create a couple more isolation opportunities for Jason Tatum. And the Celtics just failed to do that. And I don't want to say it's a stubbornness from this team, and I think it's just the Celtics team kind of playing with a little bit more of a conservative approach and not really exerting themselves during this regular season, which is a terrible excuse because you want to see this team go in and give 110% on the floor throughout each night on a day-to-day basis throughout the rest of the season, because the habits that you build now will create momentum going into playoffs. However, you need to understand that this Celtics team is a little bit banged up at this point, a little bit fatigued. So you're not going to see them putting in those types of efforts to win a regular season game against the Oklahoma City Thunder at this point, which can be of concern if they allow this to turn into a habit.
Yeah, I want to say this. I love what you said, Franco. The Boston Celtics need to execute, especially with one of their key players out. Obviously, we had no Porzingis, but the Boston Celtics live and die, like I said earlier, live and die by the three ball. You haven't seen much of a change in that game. They love shooting the three. It's obvious. We see them having these historic numbers on how often the Celtics shoot the three. It's kind of a night where the three, I would love to see it be more effective and obviously change the score for sure. Again, I'm going to say this. I think not having Porzingis, having that big man, I know I'm kind of backtracking a little bit, but not having him definitely affects that because he's one of those people that can give you an occasional three ball, but he's also going to drive a lot. And I just don't have much to say on that one except kind of like honestly, Franco, you pretty much covered everything. Like I love what you said right there. It's just it was tough shooting for the Boston Celtics tonight, and like they had a lot of shots, but I would have liked to see more for sure.
And speaking of tough shooting, speaking on individuals here, Jaylen Brown, he struggled tonight in this game. 10 points, 5 of 15 from the floor, fouled out at the end. Felt like he had aggressive moments in this game, but really just couldn't get it going. What did you guys see out there from the Oklahoma City Thunder that really stifled Jaylen Brown tonight?
I want to say this. I saw it. You guys saw the clip on the broadcast of Sam Cassell going up to Jaylen Brown and just trying to give him advice on what to do. I feel like they really. It's a night where Jaylen Brown was not like obviously you look on paper he didn't have a terrible night. It seems like shooting percentage wise, and obviously he didn't take a lot of shots. So it's like it's not alarming, but they shut him down. Like if you were a person who has never watched a Boston Celtics game and you're like an OKC fan and you saw this, you're like, oh, whatever. But no, Jaylen Brown gets like around, I don't know his exact average, but like 20 around, like you'll see him getting like 20 a game, you know? That's like a good Jaylen Brown night around the 20 mark. And they shut him down tonight. And I feel like if he had 20, that would have completely changed the outcome. But shutting him down, and I don't even want to say shutting him down. I think it was a lack of shots, and it was just how their defensive scheme was around him. And that's what really helped OKC come on top and beat this. I mean, Jaylen Brown, obviously, you guys saw it. He was not himself tonight. And I don't know exactly what he was trying to tell him, but I think that comes to the point of honestly shooting so many threes because it looked like a post move that he was trying to show him, like, all right, you got it back in and kind of go up with it. So I don't know exactly what that was. I wasn't there, so I couldn't hear it, obviously, but it looked kind of like, as a post player when I played in the paint, kind of looked like he was trying to help him with one of a post move. But I'll just say the Thunder's defensive scheme against Jaylen Brown, not a terrible night on paper, shooting percentage wise again, but a night where it's like if you're a Celtics fan, you know, you're like, what, 10 points, and fouled out. That's the biggest thing that you said too. Fouled out. Like it was just a night where Jaylen Brown's gonna be upset about because that's not the Jaylen Brown we know, and that's not the Jaylen Brown that he wanted to be tonight.
It was an incredibly physical game. So when you have Jaylen Brown in those types of matchups, that's it, kind of how you can throw Jaylen Brown off of his game. A lot of teams will allow Jaylen Brown to take more shots and allow Jaylen Brown to have more opportunities because they're just hoping that Jason Tatum doesn't catch on fire. So they would rather take their chances with Jaylen Brown getting the isolation opportunities, which isn't the proper way of stopping the Celtics team because Jaylen Brown is just as capable of turning on the switch and being able to have a stellar performance just as much as Jason Tatum is. But what you saw the Thunder do tonight was really play active defense. And when you're playing physical, being able to get your hands on Jaylen Brown and be able to force him to dribble, force him into high pressured situations where he has to make split second decisions and become that playmaker. That's when you're going to see Jaylen Brown start to struggle and kind of fall victim to that type of pressure. He kind of was falling into the hands of the Oklahoma City Thunder when it came down to the offensive side of things. They were forcing him to take contested looks from mid range, and as he was trying to penetrate the defense, and there were a lot of times that you would see Jaylen Brown getting tied up on in the paint, and it seemed like the Celtics or the refs were allowing for a little bit more of a more physical game to be allowed a couple of a little bit more of a chippy game to get away, but Jaylen Brown was trying to reciprocate that energy, which turned into frustration, which led to a few fouls that ended up costing him the final few minutes of tonight's game.
Yeah, and looking at this Oklahoma City Thunder team, I think really tonight's matchup confused me just a little bit from the standpoint of it felt as if the Celtics had all the mismatches out there on the floor. Felt like they had the size all wrapped up in this game, even without Kristaps Porzingis out on the floor. It felt like the Celtics owned the size advantage. Yet we didn't really see that advantage play out whatsoever for the Boston Celtics, considering the Celtics kept jacking 3-point shots up, and on the other end, the Celtics kept whacking off in front of the entire crowd. I mean, for real, it was absolutely ridiculous out there on the floor. The Celtics were just whacking and hacking everywhere on the Oklahoma City Thunder. And really, looking at the entirety of the game, I just think the game plan was all off for the Boston Celtics. I mean, really, the Celtics on the offensive end of the floor, the possessions in which they were aggressive, they actually found quality shots in. And then on some other occasions, the Celtics, they didn't really find those quality shots out on the floor. And I thought the defensive scheme, as you mentioned, Griffin, for the Oklahoma City Thunder, and even Doris Burke mentioned it within the broadcast. I mean, she was explaining how Oklahoma City, they were defending Jason Tatum a little bit different from everybody else. Everybody else was more concerned with defending Jason Tatum, taking away his points, taking away his opportunities, when in reality, the Oklahoma City Thunder tonight, they were out there letting Jason Tatum get his points, letting him get his numbers out on the floor, and really the Oklahoma City Thunder were trying to take away everybody else. From that perspective, the Thunder's game plan defensively certainly looks a lot different from other teams around the league. Certainly looks like one that could stifle the Boston Celtics come playoff time. And for me, I just look at the matchup between these two clubs and I go, well, does this concern me a little bit for the playoffs, considering the fact the Oklahoma City Thunder, they are a team in which they are smaller than the Boston Celtics. However, they play harder than the Boston Celtics. They are hungrier than the Boston Celtics. They are more active than the Boston Celtics. And that concerns me just a little bit come playoff time, even though there are physical disadvantages to this Thunder team. I see all of the little intricate advantages the Oklahoma City Thunder have over the Boston Celtics. And for you guys, are those concerns really relevant for the Boston Celtics in this potential matchup?
I want to add on to that. I love your take there that OKC is hungry. They want it. They want it bad. I feel like this, and I'm a diehard Boston Celtics fan. You guys know, you guys can see that. You guys, if you guys watch any of the shows, you saw the Celtics tattoo I have. I'm a diehard Celtics fan. Now, I want to say this. I've seen so many videos on the Thunder and their fans. After the Thunder lost, their fans were outside the airport waiting for them and cheering them on. Shai and his fans have a lot on their back. They have a hungry fan base, a young fan base that loves this young team, and they have a young team who wants to go out there and wants to win so bad. And Shai, obviously, you see where he is, and they are so hungry and they are so young. And that's the thing that scares me right there. They are so hungry and they are so young right there. But I think in a 7-game series, I said this to Franco before, I think the Boston Celtics are taking them in 6 or 7 games because I think the Boston Celtics are just going to dominate. The Celtics have that. And Franco, I'm kind of stealing your take. I'm sorry you said it earlier, but I loved it. The Boston Celtics more so have a leader, a kind of veteran presence on their team. And the Thunder are kind of missing that opportunity right now. So I think that's the only thing that separates it. But like you guys said, it's tough defensive wise. It's something that the Boston Celtics aren't used to, and it's something that they're going to have to watch a lot of film against this Thunder team if they're ever to lead up in the finals. It's something that they're going to have to watch and study for hours and hours and hours and have to practice their hearts out against it because it's one that's going to catch them by surprise. I mean, we saw it back the last time they matched up. We had the lead, destroyed it. I thought the Celtics were going to come in there tonight, have fire under them. Obviously, you saw that wasn't the case. OKC kept it steady sailing through the game. So does it ring some alarm bells if we face them? Yes, it's definitely a team I would not want to face. And I'm going to say this. We've been talking about who are kind of the people that you don't want to see, kind of who are the worry points. I'm missing the word. Who are the whatever. You guys get what was that?
The threats?
Who are the threats? Who are the Boston Celtics threats? And I'm going to say after this game, OKC is on the top of my list. I'm saying that because we know we could beat Cleveland. I think it's different if we face them like 4 games in a 4-game series because that's completely different. That takes away from the fact, and it stings that kind of we lost 2 games. I think in a 4-game season series, it's a lot different. But I think ultimately in a 7-game series, the Boston Celtics are taking it 100%.
Yeah, to beat the cliche, the only team that can beat the Boston Celtics is themselves. That you've heard that come from almost every single Celtics beat reporter out there this season. And I think the Oklahoma City Thunder really caused a questionable competition for the Celtics when it comes down to a 7-game series. You look at this team and you look at the depth that they have. You're seeing a roster that has about 5 players on their bench that they could feel comfortable interchanging within their starting lineup. And you can only see how young they are. So I think this team's really almost there when it comes to arriving on the scene, and it's only going to be scarier as the years go forward. So this is probably this team is only going to get better next year and the year after that. And one thing that I pointed out was this the Thunder have more draft picks and more draft capital than they can even handle at this point. So they are bound to make a move for a veteran presence on their team to add on to this roster. But looking at this season right now, I think that the inexperience for the Oklahoma City Thunder will still end up being their downfall on the court. Obviously, they have absolutely no problem drawing up the X's and O's against the Boston Celtics, trying to figure out what works and what doesn't. But there's a few things that the Celtics have that are just anomalies, and no pun intended there. But the raw talent that the Celtics have and the true experience that the Celtics have will carry them through on a game to game basis. I feel like the Celtics will be able to maintain a poise against Oklahoma City Thunder team in a series. And like I said earlier, I feel like you just have a Celtics team who's really not looking to exert themselves too early on in this regular season. Obviously, we've addressed the Drew Holiday injury and also the Kristaps Porzingis illness, which it has been improving, and he's looking to get back out on the court at some point. But I just think that the speed on this team can definitely make it a longer series than expected. However, I think the Celtics could be able to handle business when needed, and I would I would see this series going almost 6 to 7, almost guaranteed.
Can I add something really quick too? I love your take that you just said. I think the Boston Celtics, veteran presence wise, they're in a spot where this year I think that would kind of get the Thunder. Just they've been there, they won the championship, they know how it feels. But I think you add a veteran presence, like you said, to that OKC team, and they become an instant team where it could be a dynasty and it could be back and forth for the next couple of years with the Boston Celtics and the Thunder. I think that for sure.
Now that kind of leads me into my next question. Do you guys actually have the Oklahoma City Thunder coming out of the West this year?
Oh, that's a tough one. That's a tough one. You want to answer first?
Because Franco, I think you have the more evident answer of you think their inexperience might bite them, but at least win.
I think that the West is, as we've seen, is a much more unpredictable conference than the Eastern Conferences. You really can settle the men from the boys in the Eastern Conference. You know who your contenders are. You know who your pretenders are. But on the Western Conference, you're seeing teams that could fluctuate from being the 8th seed and now are competing for the number 2 seed in the Western Conference. So it's very going to come down to a few factors. It's going to be health. It's going to be how teams come in prepared for the series. I think the Denver Nuggets in the Western Conference are a team that have that experience, like the Boston Celtics do, have done a good job of maintaining their team. Obviously, a few pieces have went away, but not as many as you would expect from their last championship run. But that's a team that you can look at, and really, there's so many dark horses. As we saw last year, the Dallas Mavericks kind of caught a lot of the NBA fans by surprise when they were the team that made it to the NBA championship. And there's just a couple things that like a team that I would say could surprise people is the Grizzlies, but you could really go through about 10 teams in the Western Conference and really make a viable case for them to be the team that could move on and from the Western Conference and face the Celtics or the Eastern Conference team in the final.
I'm gonna say this now. I like what you said, and I think this. I think it's such a toss-up between. You guys know what they did, that challenge where you put your heads in the middle and you throw up a ball or something and it hits you and you're out. I don't know if you guys ever heard of that game. Kind of like you.
Oh no, that might be a main thing, man. What are you just sit there and wait for it to hit you?
Or like, what's it called? When they shoot the air, yeah. And like you don't know who it's gonna hit, the arrow or something. Yeah, I think that's what it is in the Western Conference. Like there is no knowing who the heck is gonna win and knowing who's gonna get hit with that arrow and who's gonna come and step up to the plate and be in that. There's no true answer. You obviously know with the East, I think you can narrow it down to 3. Realistically, you can narrow it down to the Celtics, Cavs, or Knicks. Like realistically, I think it's going to be the Boston Celtics, but you kind of have your guesses, you know. In the West, there's no saying who it is. I think it could be OKC. I think there's a possibility it could be the Lakers. I think there's a possibility it could be the Nuggets. I mean, last year, who thought Dallas was going to make it there? I didn't think Dallas was going to make it there when I'm like, we're facing the Mavericks. I have all these good matchups with Anthony Edwards playing great. Jokic. We're facing the Mavericks. What? Like what? That's like, I don't know if you guys ever play a lot of 2K. Whenever I would simulate a season, the Mavericks would be there. And that's literally kind of what it was last year. So it's really honestly just a toss-up. It's that arrow game in grown-ups where they shoot the arrow and whoever it's hit. I don't think there's a clear-cut team that can make it there. I would say this, though. I'm going to say this. I'm going to say the most chemistry and experienced team right now in the West is the Nuggets. They've made it to the finals. They've won the finals. So I'm going to say this year, with all the shaking it up and new teams, I think OKC has a chance because they know the route to get there and they're hungry. Like we mentioned, they're hungry. They want to get there. They want to win it. They want to get it done. So, and that's a team to look at and you're like, wow, they remind me, I'm going to say this. They remind me a lot of the last year Celtics. They really do. In a little bit. They're hungry. They want it, but I don't think they could win it, but they're hungry for sure. So I think either the options are, I think there's 2 that could make it there, them or the Nuggets because of the chemistry. I think it's ultimately going to come down to those 2 options. I really think so because obviously you see, like I said, Nuggets have that chemistry. They've been there. They know how to do it. They have kind of relatively kind of the same team, you know, a little different parts, but Jokic is a wizard with the ball, and you have Jamal Murray who's nice, you know, and when they get into playoffs, they're usually a good team to face, you know. So I think it could really either be the Nuggets or the Thunder, and the Thunder is that team where we said it, young, hungry, they want it. But ultimately, it's going to be like grown-ups. We're going to shoot that arrow up, and it's going to be a surprise on who it lands on.
Kings.
I would be down for the Kings to make it there. I'm down for that. That's
Wake up,
Girl?
Life's
I'll
a
tell you guys
beam.
right now, I do not see a Zach LaVine, DeMar DeRozan finals run this year.
Come on, that would be great.
I just
I
don't
would
see
love
that.
it. I would love it. I would love it. Imagine Celtics versus Kings, but think about it. Think about it.
Summer League title, Summer League 2021.
No, but listen,
Redemption.
listen. Celtics versus Kings is like the Mavericks versus Celtics last year. I'm telling you. All right, be honest. Be honest. And I want you guys to be completely honest with me. Going into playoffs, who could imagine the Mavericks were going to be there? Because I know I didn't. Did any
Rob
of you?
did.
What?
Rob did.
Yeah, Rob.
Yeah, actually.
Rob did a whole prediction video last season before the playoffs begun, and he hit on his predictions for the Lakers or the Mavericks to go into the finals.
All right, but did you guys see it coming? Did you guys see it coming though?
Like we said, I think we were in the same boat last year. Last year, I think the consensus team for me was it the Clippers? I think it was the Clippers when
That could
with their team, and I thought that they were going to be able to hold it together with Harden, Westbrook, Paul George, and Kawhi, but obviously the health bug and PG-13 play games in a season is just not going to be able to cut it. But I think there's a lot of teams that have been impacted by injuries, and I think that kind of clears a lane for the Thunder in the Western Conference and kind of gets rid of that fog of who's going to be there in April and May and really bring it. And a comparison that I would give the Thunder is I would say a better version of the 2021-2022 Celtics when they were competing with the Golden State Warriors in that championship, because you see that they had the young depth on their team. I'm thinking about the Robert Williams, the Grant Williams, young depth players who you could be able to patch into the starting lineup, and you could see multiple different looks out of that Celtics team, and it would work on the court. That's what I see with this Thunder team, and who knows what can happen. But I just, to be honest, I think if the Thunder win now, it's scary to imagine what they can become in years to come.
Well, just breaking down the West here for a second. We're going to loop back around on Celtics Thunder. Don't get me wrong, but really diving into the West, I think the surprising teams this year, if anybody were to make it out of the West, out of the top, we'll go top 8. Okay, so I'm excluding. Let me just pull up the standings real quick. Let me pull up the standings so I can get this all correct as of tonight, because let's face it, the West standings completely change every night, depending on what the seed is. But right now, we have the Oklahoma City Thunder at 1. A lot of people obviously have them going to the NBA Finals, but a lot of people think they're too young. We saw them play tonight against the Boston Celtics. So right now, I'm going to talk 1 through 8. I'm going to exclude the Sacramento Kings from this conversation at number 9.
Oh, you can't do that. You can't do that.
I'm doing it.
I'm telling
I'm
you.
doing it. And I'm going to exclude the Dallas Mavericks, too, at number 10, because Kyrie's out.
Okay, yeah.
AD, I don't know what's going on there. The Suns had plenty of time to do something this season. They're still below 500, still out of the play, and they're done. Every other team is openly tanking: Blazers, Spurs, Pelicans, Jazz in the West at the bottom. So the 9 through 15, I'm not talking about. Kings, Mavericks, yes, could they make a run? But I'm throwing them out. Mavs have too many problems. This has been a season from hell. The Kings, the Kings could make it in there, make some noise, but I'm not. I'm going to exclude them. But looking at the West, I think the surprising teams really to me to make a run, if they were to make a run and people would legitimately be surprised, it would be the Rockets, yes, the Grizzlies, and the Clippers. Now, the Clippers are at 8. I think a lot of people just don't believe in their superstar duo, think they're too old, don't have enough. That's fine. At number 8, I don't see the Clippers really making a run whatsoever. So
who knows?
But again, that's why they're in this category. It's kind of an unexpected run. These other teams, The other teams, go ahead. We'll go ahead, Griffin.
Put the Kings in there then. If you could put the Clippers.
Okay,
in
you're
there,
right. No, you're
put the
right. Clippers,
Kings in
Kings. We'll go into that category. We're fine. We're fine. Unexpected runs. Yeah, if the Clippers, Kings, or Mavericks made a run, it would be unexpected. That is for sure. Rockets, Grizzlies, they're at 3-5 right now. I really just don't think anybody's giving them their praise because the Rockets are almost like a different version of the Thunder with their youth in the Western Conference. And then you look at the Grizzlies. People believe in the Grizzlies from the standpoint they've had past success with Ja Morant and Jaren Jackson Jr. and Taylor Jenkins as their head coach on the bench. They're a more veteran-led squad than some of these other young squads, but at the same time, Memphis always dealing with that injury bug. There's some questionable depth going on in Memphis every single year. They typically move around pieces, rely on a lot of young guys, so that's why it's always in question in Memphis. But there's a lot of just availability things that are going on with the Memphis Grizzlies, specifically regarding Ja Morant, who misses pretty much every other game like Joel Embiid, but isn't really talked about like Joel Embiid yet. Although we'll see what happens within his NBA career, even this summer, because the Grizzlies, they're number 3 right now. They could make a finals run, and all this talk could go out the window. Those are the unexpected finals teams. Those would be the teams I would expect not to make the finals, but they might. The Grizzlies, the Rockets, specifically at the top of that list. But then you also have the Clippers, the Kings, the Mavericks. These other teams, people still want to be those guys. When I say those guys, it's those contenders in the Western Conference. The Thunder, they're at number 1. That's easy. Number 2 is the Nuggets. Griffin, you already alluded to it. A lot of veteran experience within the Nuggets. They've already won the championship. They're going to have the best player on the floor every single series. Lakers series, maybe a little debatable there, but Nikola Jokic is going to be the best player on the floor in 9 out of 10 series. If not, I mean, well, let's see, what, 28 out of 30 series, maybe. Looking at all the other teams out there, 28 out of 29, I guess, couldn't face himself. But the Thunder and the Nuggets, they're obvious. The Lakers, they're dabbling with that 2 seed right now. LeBron, Luca. People want to doubt the Lakers, but at the same time, LeBron and Luca. LeBron, you just can't count LeBron out even at age 40. He has a top 5 NBA player on his roster who isn't himself right now in Luka Doncic. And the Lakers, they just have a ton of size. They have a ton of size. No big men, but a ton of size to defend. And they have a couple of guys who can hit threes as well. So the Lakers, Nuggets, Thunder, I would actually put that as my top 3 in terms of contenders out west. The Thunder, the Lakers, the Nuggets. I would put them Nuggets first, Lakers second, Thunder third. And just because of the experience, just because of the talent, that would be my top 3 in the West, straight up. Just giving it to y'all right now. But the Warriors and Timberwolves, those are 2 teams. I would almost add them to the unexpected category, but at the same time, I think people are kind of keeping an eye on both of those teams right now from the
They're tier
standpoint that
2.
yeah, the Timberwolves last year
Oh,
made the conference finals. Now, to me, I'm kind of out on the Timberwolves. I'm totally out on the Timberwolves. People want them to be a team that can make a run, but looking at their seed right now, they're the 7th seed. They're the 7th best team in the West. That's how I actually feel about the Minnesota Timberwolves. If you look at every other West team, including themselves, I don't see them as 1. I don't see them as 2. I don't see them as 3. I see them as the 7th best team. I think that's where they actually slot. And there's a reason for that. Their offense has been absolutely terrible with Anthony Edwards and Julius Randle ball stopping all season. And they had a terrible offense last year with Karl Anthony Towns. And you take an offensive gem like Karl Anthony Towns out of that offense, and then all of a sudden, this Minnesota offense is just putrid. Meanwhile, their defense has seemingly taken a little bit of a hit since last year. I see them as the 7th best team in the West right now, but other people understand this team was a 3 seed last year. They were basically tied for the number 1 seed. The last game of the season, I mean, it went OKC, Denver, Minnesota. Could have easily went Denver, Minnesota, OKC last year. I mean, it was the last day of the season where they flip-flop spots, and that's where they ended up at the end. But really, the Minnesota Timberwolves, people understand the history there. They want to believe in Anthony Edwards, some of the youth, but it hasn't come together as a team this year. But people still expect them to make a run. I would put them more in the unexpected category, though. The Warriors are interesting. They're actually one of the more interesting teams out west to me. And I haven't talked about them a ton, but the Warriors, the Jimmy Butler trade, changed the entire complexity of their team. I mean, they have another star on their roster next to Steph Curry and Draymond Green, and you can't even deny within their record right now since Jimmy Butler joined the Golden State Warriors. I believe the Warriors, they only have 2 losses since Jimmy Butler joined the squad, and one of them, he was out of the entire game. I believe it was against the Philadelphia 76ers. So really, the Golden State Warriors, they've been on a run lately with Jimmy Butler. They're a whole new team. They were a team people were looking at to contend earlier this season. They completely went in the toilet, and now all of a sudden they're back. They are really back. And so I wouldn't. If the Warriors made a run, if you saw Steph Curry, Jimmy Butler, Draymond Green in the conference finals, I don't think that would be all that surprising to people because people kind of have that on the radar. But that's kind of the West right now, from my perspective. Is you have the Lakers, the Thunder, the Nuggets. Those are your top 3 teams specifically, and then after that you have teams like the Warriors and the Timberwolves, who people they kind of look at and go, could those teams make a run? And then they you have the disrespected Grizzlies, the disrespected Rockets in there, and then the rest, Clippers, Kings. Go add the Mavericks in there as well. I think I mentioned everybody who's in the playing spots. Suns, who are out of the playing spot. Those teams, I'm counting out. I'm absolutely counting out everybody after the 7 seed right now. But at the top, I think all 7 of those teams, I would not be completely shocked, totally shocked, if any of those 7 teams made the finals. There's specifically some teams within that group that I look at and go, okay, I don't see it, I wouldn't expect it. But then if it happened, I wouldn't be sitting there going, whoa, I can't believe that just happened. It wouldn't be like the Miami Heat in 2023. It would be well, you can see it from this team at some point in time in the season. That's kind of how the West has broken out.
Can I add something to that?
Yeah.
I forgot. Call me crazy. I forgot about the Warriors. I'm gonna say this: playoff Jimmy, playoff Jimmy. I mean, you've heard it. So I wouldn't be shocked. I'm gonna bump them up. Call me crazy. Call me out on this. I'm gonna bump them up to that category where I think they could potentially face the Celtics. I think they could in the finals, totally, because they have a solid team. I mean, it's undeniable. They have Buddy Hield still, right? I'm pretty sure they have Buddy Hield. They have solid pieces with Kuminga. I haven't looked at the Warriors since that Butler trade, so I forgot. I know they got rid of Wiggins, but they still got a solid team. And we talk about Butler being a problem in playoffs. So, I mean, this could be a year where the Warriors make it back potentially and even facing the Celtics. But I'm still going with my 1 and 2 OKC and the Nuggets for sure.
Well, I mean, look at this. OKC, Denver, the Los Angeles Lakers, Houston Rockets, Memphis Grizzlies, Golden State Warriors. 2 of those teams are going to lose round 1.
Okay, but if you could put the Lakers in there at 3, then you could totally put the Warriors in there too. Because the Lakers are I think we obviously LeBron is so experienced and stuff, and it's Luka. All right, yeah. But I'm saying this, with all the young talent they have on their team with Dalton Connect and Austin Reeves, I don't think they can make a huge run that everyone thinks that they're going to. Call me crazy. Like, I would love, as a Celtics fan, I would love to see that rivalry clash again in the finals. But I'm saying this. I'm saying Lakers fans are too high up on them. Too high up on them. There's too much competition in the West.
If that Mark Williams, I'm saying this dead seriously. If that Mark Williams trade went through, and they had a starting center with his caliber of play and his talent, I would have almost put the lock on the Lakers being in the NBA Finals. But I feel like that trade being rescinded completely wiped that off the table. Obviously, they're now a wing-centric team. They're not playing position basketball. They're playing much more positionless basketball. And I just, after the trade, I think that it's the right direction for what the Lakers want to build. Obviously, having someone to pass the torch down to after LeBron retires. But I feel like what they need to do is have this off season to be able to bring in those free agent players and build that rotation around Luka and LeBron, so LeBron can have that final push and have the retirement tour. And I think that will end up being the case next year. But to round it all off, it's either going to be I think the Thunder have enough talent at this point to match up with the experience in the Western Conference.
Yes, and speaking of experience, the Boston Celtics had a player out on the floor tonight who really has been getting all of the experience we've seen in the NBA over these past 8 seasons. And that man, of course, is our player spotlight tonight, Jason Tatum, who tonight, hey, let's call it how it is. Maybe put a little bit towards his MVP resume tonight. Now, will it change anything about the MVP conversation moving forward? Probably not, but hey, Jason Tatum definitely did enough tonight to keep himself maybe within that top 3 ranking of the MVP race at the end of the season. 33 points, 8 rebounds, 8 assists for Jason Tatum, 12 of 23 from the floor. Very efficient night from the field, 5 of 5 from the free throw line. And Jason Tatum, of course, wins our SeatGeek player spotlight. Do not forget to put in that code Celtics Weekly at the SeatGeek checkoff in order to get 20% off your first purchase at SeatGeek. SeatGeek has you covered for all the best seats in the game of basketball and really all of sports. But Jason Tatum tonight coming out with our SeatGeek player spotlight. JT, another phenomenal game out of Jason Tatum. And this was really a duel of MVP candidates between Jason Tatum and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Now, we talked a little bit about how the Thunder defended Jason Tatum tonight, and they alluded to it on the broadcast, saying the Oklahoma City Thunder, they were kind of allowing Jason Tatum to get his points, get his opportunities, defending him straight up, taking away some of the other opportunities for the Boston Celtics. So we talked about it a little bit earlier, just how Jason Tatum might have been maneuvering throughout the game, but we didn't go quite in depth on Jason Tatum specifically tonight on a night where Jason Tatum scores 33 points, comes up with 8 rebounds, 8 assists, shoots super effectively from the floor, and the Celtics lose. What did you guys like about Jason Tatum's game tonight? And what essentially, if you look at Jason Tatum, what led him down this path of being the most dominant Celtic tonight?
So I want to give Derek White his flowers too. I thought he had a pretty good night too. I kind of want to add him in there a little bit. I thought he helped the game a little bit, along with Al Horford, who kind of just that veteran experience, kind of just rolling off of that. But with Jason Tatum on my show, Celtics Nation Rise, we call him kind of with a performance like this, we call this an average Tatum night. Now, like from what he was doing.
Technically.
Yeah, at the beginning of the season, this is an average Tatum night, which we're so blessed as Celtics fans to be able to say this is an average Tatum night, like 33 points. What? That's crazy. But I think ultimately it came down to this for Jason Tatum. You see it, and I'm gonna say it. Jason Tatum, best player in the league. I'm saying it from me. Yeah. Look what he's doing. Look what he's doing. So, but tonight for him to go out and kind of just lift his team up and be like, when it's been all OKC tonight, he kind of shifted that energy and was like, all right, we got to get into this game. And it was close. And those 33 points kept the Celtics still nudging head and head with the OKC, even though we obviously see that spread of ocean. But the Boston Celtics, if you guys watched this game, you guys knew that it was head to head, and that's because of Jason Tatum and his performance tonight.
Yeah, you guys called it average. I've been calling it the expectation for the season.
Yeah,
it's same thing, but I think that Tatum had a great performance tonight. He was able to take advantage of those isolation opportunities, and it's up to him to be able to acknowledge those and be able to build around those. I saw a lot of good things at Tatum's game, especially when he was able to attack the rim at some points, being able to cut to the rim to bring it back into a close game. I've been I just had a good point. I'm trying to recall back on it, but I, when we see Tatum have these types of performances, and you see everyone else be able to get involved in the game, it helps out this team so much. And the Thunder were able to diagnose that, and it led to a lot of passing around, and a lot of the time the ball coming out of Jason Tatum's hands and ending up in a predicament where they're trying to find a different passer. And oh man, I had such a good point before. I've been up since 4 in the morning, but I think
No,
that
we had to say it. We had to say it for the viewers. Like this, you're almost on a 24-hour clock here. I mean, you're 6 hours
yeah,
away from it here. It's been for 18 hours.
yeah,
Crazy.
but oh man, I'll round back to it. What was it? It was something. Oh, I'll just pop in.
Yeah, just throw it out. You'll notice it literally 25 minutes from now, and you'll throw it out there.
Yeah.
But tonight's game between Tatum and SGA was a game between MVP candidates. Now, looking at the other side of the docket here, because Jason Tatum, of course, he tonight came out with 33 points. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander topped Jason Tatum from a points perspective on tonight's in tonight's game, 34 points. But for this game, looking at it in its entirety, Jason Tatum and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, they were very much on the same level, same par of superstar tonight. And you can certainly see why both players get the praise they do within the MVP conversation. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, everything you hear about him is completely true, all the way down to the foul merchant narrative, because he did have a couple of those moments tonight where it looked like, is he really going for a shot there? Is he really just throwing up something in order to get a call? Very James Harden-esque, very early Luka-esque, I will say, from Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, but maybe that's just the recipe of being a good scorer in the NBA, is really getting to the free throw line, recognizing when defenders are kind of cheating on you. And when I say cheating, not cheating on help, but rather just, maybe hand checking guys every once in a while, getting that uppercut on them, just letting them know, hey, it's not allowed in the game. I'm going to go after it every single time. That's what Shai Gilgeous-Alexander does. Very, very reminiscent of what James Harden used to do in the NBA, or still does in the NBA rather, but specifically for the Houston Rockets when his usage was all the way up. But looking at Shai Gilgeous-Alexander tonight, and of course Jason Tatum as well, both putting up MVP caliber performances up to this point in the season, a lot of people have Shai Gilgeous-Alexander as their MVP, and increasingly so. Seems like he's almost running away with the odds when it comes to the award, even though Jokic is right there. He just put up a 30, 20, and 20 game, which is just, I mean, come on. To me, I'm like, how do you put up a 30, 20, and 20 game and somehow you're not the front runner for MVP in that week?
Can
I
I
have
say
no
something?
idea. Go
Can I
ahead,
say
Jason.
something? So back on my podcast, Rob joined us and we were talking about like MVP and kind of the best team, the best player should get MVP. But this is a thing with Jokic. He is so tough to kind of switch that up because he's having nights like that. That's unheard of. That's crazy. When I saw that, I'm like, what? What? That's sorry. I just had to mention that really quick. It's like, how does he even do it? I don't get it. And it's so he knows the game to such a high level that it just looks so effortlessly. Like, I think his skill, and I mentioned this on there too, his skill is higher than everyone else. So it might look like he doesn't care about the game, but I think his like knowledge of it is just so high that it just looks so effortlessly. And it's kind of like, all right, look, I know the game and I surpass you guys. I use my size and I use my knowledge. Sorry, I just had to throw that in
No,
there. The Jokic.
no, you're perfectly fine, because talking about the MVP, I mean, do you guys see it as a wrapped up race at this point in time with SGA, or is there actually still time left on the schedule for Jokic to come back and steal it? Especially considering Jokic definitely doesn't have the voter fatigue narrative on his side right now. 3-time MVP versus 0-time MVP. There's going to be some voter fatigue in there, certainly.
I'm gonna say this. I think Shea has it this year because last year I feel like it was more so like between the two. I think Tatum deserved it last year, best player on the most dominant team in the NBA. I think Tatum definitely deserved it last year, but between those two last year, if you had to give it to Shea or Jokic, it should have been to Shea last year. But I think kind of this year is kind of going to be a redemption in a sense. But at the same time, I think Shea is just a phenomenal player. And again, what kind of Rob and I were talking about on the podcast is you're kind of seeing the MVP go back to the best player on the best team in the NBA. And that is going to be Shea. I mean, look what he's doing and look how dominant the Thunder are. Yeah.
And I would say that Nikola Jokic, if you want to go check out our podcast from earlier today that we recorded with
Get that plug in.
Yep.
Mhm.
But
I literally
we
just plugged my phone in. I didn't mean to do that. I somehow it
Yep.
just worked. I'm like, wait a minute, what?
Yeah.
Get that plug in many ways, folks.
But
Plugs are
thing-
always important.
one thing that was said was don't close up the conversation with Bobby Kravitsky. He said don't close out the conversation until the end of the regular season, and I can see the case for that. And you can really make the case for both of these players. And one thing that you can see with both of these players is both the game plans are a little bit more NBA centric or more centralized around them. Nikola Jokic is the system in Denver. That's why he is going to be able to have those ridiculous 30-point, 20 rebound, 20 assist games because everything runs through him. Offense, defense, the ball doesn't initiate without him, and the transition game that he is able to create is almost unstoppable. So that just really puts him in a almost in a grandfathered, if the NBA did that, grandfathered MVP. And I think he's kind of gotten to that point where if it doesn't slow down his production, he will always be within that MVP category. But what Shai Gilgeous-Alexander has been able to do this season has been remarkable, and it's it's tough on Jason Tatum in the individual awards. However, I think it's better for Jason Tatum to be focused on winning championships. Obviously, rings are the only memorabilia that you want to collect, but I think the MVP race is going to be very challenging for Tatum to climb up those ranks above either Tatum or Shea with just the talent around him. That obviously will water down his performances a little bit more, but if anything, it should show be more conveying that he is able to have such great performances with so much talent around him. And if he was on a team with a little bit less talent around him, he would be forced to have those types of games where he is contributing ludicrous numbers in each stat column. And I kind of thought about what I was talking about earlier, and it was from when you were saying about the flowers. And we actually, before our beautiful Justin retired earlier for the rest of the season, we had a thing called Justin Flowers just because of how frequently we would have Jason Tatum up in that corner up there. It would be just the expectation of these types of performances, him being able to play make and him being able to get his points. So we had to start giving out flowers to players like Al Horford and Derek White. And that segment was brought to us by Bucket Squad, another one of our sponsors. Just wanted to throw in that plug real quick as well.
So real quick, I want to ask, how come Justin retired for the rest of the season?
new media path. He's going down new career path, and I think he's looking to write a new chapter with his other half. So we're hoping to hear some updates from him on that, and hoping everything continues to go well for him, and wishing him the best.
That's
And
awesome.
this is CTW news on the broadcast. I don't know if we let all the viewers know that Justin Lowe has retired from the CTW program, but
He's pulled a Brett Favre a couple times in the past, so who knows? He could just randomly show up. He still has the link to our show, so he might just come out of nowhere and call me Radio Boy. But for now, it seems like he's gonna be in the rocking chair.
Can I say something? I still have a bone to pick with him. I do.
I'm
talking
gonna
Wow.
have to reach out to him.
All right, David and I were talking about this. No, I think the beef is done. The beef is done. But I was talking to David about this. I was like, so your boy Justin, he'll follow me every once in a while, and then all of a sudden I'll get unfollowed. I'm like, so what's up with this? But big shout out to Justin. Followed me back. He's followed me for a couple of weeks now. So that's progress. It's not just a day. And he's liked some of the posts. So I gotta give respect to Justin. I was like, all right, hold on. What's going on here? But
He's beautiful.
yeah, settled it. I was like, hold on, Justin. What we doing here? What we doing? Squash.
Hey, he might have to pull a John Cena and come out for one more match against the new kid. Who knows?
Listen, I'm not trying to get unfollowed again. No. See, we've been, and we'll hit a comment. We'll like every one of our posts, and we'll hit each other with a comment every once in a while. So hey, we got it worked out.
So do we need like a Griffin and Justin, like Shaq and Kobe presentation?
Yes.
Like a passing on the torch.
I need to confront him about this because I don't think he knows. I think David just texted him and was like, yo, go follow him, because it's funny. So this is the thing. I'm not trying to call him out, but I think it was my Baylor Shireman interview.
Wow!
Listen, I tagged a bunch of creators. I tagged him. Oh,
that is so funny. That is funny that you tagged Justin on a Baylor Shireman post.
Wait, does he not like Baylor?
Oh my!
Is that what
the examples pull? I'm getting some receipts pulled from the earlier. See, I hate that we're talking about this without Justin actually on the program to defend himself right now. But
I feel like he could be one of these sick viewers. Knowing him, like, who knows?
Wait. So he didn't like Baylor? No, because all right. So I gotta finish the story really quick. I tagged a bunch of like Celtics.
Okay, here we go.
And then all of a sudden I get unfollowed. I was like, wait, what? Oh my. So that's why. So he saw I tagged him and he's like, all right, no, I'm done with this. But and do you want to hear something funny? All right, so this is the first I'm knowing about this, because recently he said, who's gonna step up? And I commented against the 76ers, I commented Baylor with a bunch of Y's, and he was like, after the game he did the eyes emoji. So he's still so okay. So I'm contributing to the beef and I didn't even know it. That's my bad, because that's literally how the first unfollow happened. No, I think he unfollowed me once first, and then he followed me back, and I tagged a bunch of Celtics creators in it, and all of a sudden he must have saw it or something, and all of a sudden I'm like, wait, he unfollowed me again. So no way. That's crazy. Okay. All right. I'm happy I know this now. So maybe he just has beef with Baylor. So, all right. I'm good now. Good.
No, he'll be a Baylor believer as much as we are on this show right now, I will say, one day, because I mean, this fight, man, Justin, you gotta come back here. Gotta come back for some conversations here.
Yes,
come back for Postgame. Just a couple of conversations. Number one of them with Baylor Shireman. It's like, what? What's the hate? What's the hate for?
Yes, because I tell you what, if anyone could sell him on Baylor Shireman, it's me. You guys know it.
No, that's what I'm saying.
My goodness.
No,
For
that's
two,
what I'm
for
saying.
two,
Like,
I gotta talk about the beef. We need to squash the beef in person. Like, I need to talk to him. I don't know where he is. Justin,
okay,
come. All right, if you're watching this, come back. Just for one. Just
our
for one. We got
program is turning into a WWE show where it's
yes.
like
Wow.
Justin's gone, here comes Griffin, then it's like Justin is called out in front of the entire crowd to come back to riff about Baylor Shireman. One more time.
Yep.
One more time.
I'm telling you.
Voices in the air.
So clip. All right. Someone needs to clip this and send it to him. It's going down. It's
Just send
going
him
down.
a time. Just send him the link with the time mark. Be like, your name came up at this point in time.
Yep. All right.
I'm just saying.
All right. I'm calling him out. Listen, either we're doing a podcast or he gotta come on a post game show because this is going down. All right. It's gonna be its own podcast. I'm saying it. Celtics Nation Rise X Celtics Talk Weekly. Baylor Shireman, Griffin versus Justin. I'm telling you. I'm telling him. I'm telling you guys. If anyone can, it's me. You guys know it. You guys know it.
Oh man,
We need like podiums, like instead of it being like David's in the comment section right now. He's saying Magic and Isaiah, like the two seats next to each other, like Magic Johnson and Isaiah Thomas. Like, you guys might need a podium. Apparently, the way you're talking right now,
Yeah. No, but that's crazy because so he probably was like, man, this guy's out. Like, he probably thought it was a piece of crap. He probably saw that video and he's probably like, oh, this guy's probably being rude, adding me in his post and stuff. He's probably like, oh, heck no, I'm unfollowing him. Genuinely, I did not know about that. I was just tagging Celtics creators and I saw his. Wow. Okay. We gotta talk about this because we need to hear the true reason why he unfollowed me. I think it was I'm gonna say 2 times he unfollowed me. All right. And we gotta figure it out. We need to squash the beef. Like I said, the beef is squashed, but we gotta talk this out and we need to come down to the bottom of this. We do.
No, it'll happen. It'll happen the way the Boston Celtics homestand just happened, which now coming off this homestand, the Boston Celtics, they just played 7 straight games at home. 7 straight, guys.
Nice.
And now, unfortunately, 8 of the next 9 will be on the road. 8 of the next 9 will be on the road. And that's what happens when you go through a 7-game homestand. Now the Celtics, they went 5-2 on that 7-game homestand. The 2 losses are really the 2 teams that we didn't want to see the Celtics lose to, but they're also some of the more explainable losses on the schedule for the Boston Celtics, facing the quality opponents in which they did. They lost to the Cleveland Cavaliers at the start of their homestand, the Boston Celtics did, and then ended out their homestand with a loss against the Oklahoma City Thunder. But the 5 games in between made a nice middle of the sandwich there. The Boston Celtics defeating the Denver Nuggets, the Portland Trailblazers, the Philadelphia 76ers, and the Los Angeles Lakers. So 2 out of 4 quality opponents within there. Oh, also the Utah Jazz. So 2 out of 5 quality opponents within those 5 games in the middle. The 2 on the end, the Cleveland game to start and the Oklahoma City game tonight to end, obviously puts the losses in the loss column for the Boston Celtics. And a little sad news here tonight for the Celtics. The Oklahoma City Thunder give the Boston Celtics their 19th loss of the season, which means officially, folks, the Boston Celtics will not be matching their regular season record from 23-24. We will see a worst regular season record once this season is all said and done, because the Boston Celtics only lost 18 games last year, the entire regular season. This season, with what? How many games here to go? About less than 20 games, between 15 and 20 games to go. The Boston Celtics lose their 19th game of the season, maybe a couple more losses on the horizon, considering that there's about 15 to 20 games left. So the Celtics not going to meet the mark of last year, but still going to come fairly close. And let's face it too, guys, the Boston Celtics really missed that mark back in December and January when they were dropping games to teams like the Kings we were talking about earlier, the Raptors, going all the way back to the Magic and the Sixers game at Christmas time. The Celtics truly missed that mark with games like that. But the Celtics, they weren't playing well in January and December and even into February a little bit there. But February, the end of February and March, the Boston Celtics, they're starting to turn up. to another level. Now, this homestand for the Boston Celtics coming out of it, I think you would say it was fairly successful, going 5-2 with a winning
Yeah.
record. But what does this homestand ultimately say about the Boston Celtics going 5-2, losing to the two best teams record-wise in the NBA, and the Thunder and the Cavs, while also during most of this homestand, the Boston Celtics, the trend was huge lead, dwindled down into either no lead or a tie or a little lead, and the Boston Celtics needing to close out a game in the end. Some of these games they did it in, some games they didn't do it in. But what does this homestand say about the Boston Celtics and where they're at as a team right now?
I want to say this first of all. Do you guys know what 19 means? In correlation to 19 losses, banner 19, banner 19.
I thought about that earlier, but here's the thing about that. We gotta go undefeated the rest of the year. We
Yeah,
gotta end this year on a 15 game, or I think it's 60. Tonight was game 66, so we have 16 games left in the season right now, which is wow. Okay, 16. That is not that many games, folks. That is not too many. We're gonna talk about it here, really moving forward here on the program, but only 16 games left in the regular season for the Boston Celtics. I mean, uh, uh, 16 game winning streak. I maybe,
it
but
could happen. It could happen.
not at the end of the year.
Nah, yeah, yeah. You're right. You're right. I just
We're gonna need we're talking about Shireman, but it's like Shireman, Walsh. One of these games, the back-to-back Hornets
Fireman's
games
gonna step
at
up.
the end of this season. That's gonna be where it is. It's like, oh, can we win both Hornets games when we're resting everybody? When Tatum, Brown, White, Holiday, Horford, even Pritchard, and Porzingis, of course, they're all on the injury
We'll
report.
play
We're
the game
starting,
up important for you.
yeah, J.D. Davison and Baylor Shireman and Jordan Walsh and
I'm excited to
Xavier
see my main
Tillman gets
Celtics.
minutes.
I'm excited to see my main Celtics up there. They're gonna pop off. Trust and believe. Trust and believe. I'm telling you. I'm telling you. Hey, the main Celtics are doing good right now. So the Boston Celtics, when the main Celtics are up there, are gonna do phenomenal. I'm telling you. I'm telling you. But to answer your question though, I think really quick, I think that home game kind of long home stretch was I liked it. Because obviously it's the two losses that we don't want to see. Those are the two wins that you could kind of I guess you could say Lakers too that you would want to win those three and then you could be like, all right, the rest, yeah, you don't want to lose them, but we'd rather win those three. Like I feel like those are the most important to us. Um but I think ultimately, like you look at it, the Celtics have struggled this year kind of at home, it raises a lot of eyebrows. It's like you're supposed to be better at home. So I was kind of impressed with this run. Obviously, like you already mentioned, that it was the two tough ones where we were talking like, all right, the Cavs, this could be a playoff matchup. All right, now we're talking the Thunder, this could be a finals matchup. So it's definitely two where you don't want to see them, especially on your own home court. That's devastating. But I think we learned a lot from them. I think they were good. Like with the Cavs, we learned we got to keep our foot on the gas pedal and we got to finish games out strong. With the Thunder, we need to kind of learn from this. I'm going to take this as a learning point that we kind of got to, if threes aren't working so well, we got to rely on going into the paint and we got to work new ways around to score the ball. And we got to figure out a way to beat this young, fast OKC team. So I think we learned a lot overall. I love seeing the Celtics beat the Lakers on our home court. Loved that. That was fun. So I think that win kind of tops out for me. Just beating LA in general is great, but especially on your own home court is amazing. So I took a lot of fun things from this, and I took a lot of things where I'm like, all right, the Celtics need to work on that in practice. But ultimately, I think it was a good home stretch, and it's going to be fun moving forward for sure.
Yeah, I think this home stretch was obviously the two most important games that you wanted to see the Celtics win were the Cleveland and Oklahoma City Thunder games, but you didn't see the Celtics lose games that you expect them to win. You saw them compete and make those games interesting with those two top teams and the number one and number two teams at the NBA standings. And both of those games were a few game plans away or scheme plans away, a few adjustments away from being different outcomes. But you just need to be able to see this team be able to find that cruise control, and that's what really is the goal for the rest of the season, is being able to cruise through. You don't need to overexert yourself. The win or the loss tonight isn't going to be a difference maker in any types of standings or anything like that. If anything, maybe the Thunder gain a little bit of confidence, but by the time the playoffs roll around, I feel like if you're pulling confidence from a regular season win, you're pulling at straws. And if you look at the rest of the schedule for the Celtics, it is really, really, really just a cakewalk for them. We're looking at the Miami Heat, Brooklyn Nets, Utah Jazz, Trailblazers, Kings, Suns, Spurs, Grizzlies, Heat again, Suns, Wizards, and then 2 challenging games with the Knicks, and then you wrap it up with 2 games with the Charlotte Hornets. So this isn't really no games in the schedule other than maybe the Orlando Magic game or possibly the Grizzlies and some of the Western Conference opponents that you want to put a little bit of stock into, but really you're going to be seeing players that you're not used to seeing play. You're going to be seeing Torrey Craig start to get more rotational minutes. Maybe one thing that I would really like the Celtics to attempt to solve before the playoffs begin is figure out what Xavier Tillman is on this team. We obviously,
I think we figured that out. I think he's a nothing.
well,
I mean, seriously, we are 66 games into the season. We haven't seen him at all, and when he gets out there, he looks like he can't even move. It looks like he has bricks on his feet. I think we figured it out that he's just not going to ever be in the rotation. I think by game 35, we were definitely like, "What is going on with Xavier Tillman?" 30 games later from there, I'm going, okay, this is.
Can I ask a question then? Why didn't we trade him then, or why didn't we release him and fill a roster spot? Why is he still on the team? Wait. Why is he still on the team? That I feel like someone trusts him in some type of way if he's still on the team. There must.
He did play for the Celtics in the finals last year. Played with them in the Eastern Conference Finals. Filled some minutes with Kristaps Porzingis out of the mostly out of the playoffs last year. For most of the playoffs, Kristaps Porzingis didn't play. Tillman did fill in very crucial minutes for the Celtics during last year's playoff run. But this year, considering there are no minutes out there for Tillman, even in the regular season during garbage time moments, I mean, I don't see how he plays any of a role come playoff time when, especially looking at the big man rotation, you have Porzingis and Horford at the top. And then after Horford and Porzingis, who are going to be playing upwards of 35, 40 minutes a game in the playoffs because, hey, we're babying them during the regular season. But when it comes playoff time, those guys are playing 35, 40 minutes a night. It's not going to be any of this 25, 30-minute BS stuff. It's going to be 35, 40 minutes a night. And then after them, you have Cornette and Cato who you're going to if you're Joe Mazzulla. Been seasoning them for those positions all year, the third and fourth big man slot. And really you don't need on a basketball team a fifth big man. You have in there in case, which we know Kristaps Porzingis kind of injury prone. Al Horford, 38 years old. You need the insurance options if you're the Boston Celtics, specifically talking about Xavier Tillman, but he's nothing more than an insurance option for the Boston Celtics that they might never use. They might never put in an insurance claim for Xavier Tillman. That to me, I don't see it happening from the standpoint of I just there's no room in the rotation for him. Only if somebody gets hurt, and even then, I think we're looking at other guys like Cornette and Queta. I think the reason we didn't trade him by the deadline is I don't think there was a trade that made sense for us to move off of him for. I mean, looking at all the options out there, was there going to be a trade where we upgrade from Xavier Tillman potentially at his salary? I don't really see that. And if you're talking about just waiving or cutting him, well, why wouldn't we just keep him? Because what, we're gonna sign another fifth big? Well, we might as well
you're
just
right.
keep Tillman in there if we're gonna do that. But the only thing that concerns me about Tillman really is the fact that when he has played this season, he has really not looked agile, really not looked in shape whatsoever. It's not as if he was this crazy athletic person last year, player last year, but at the same time, does look a little, he looks a little sluggish compared to last year. But Franco, you were going on a point here. We got totally sidetracked because I cut you off. But Xavier Tillman, finding out what he is, I think
Mhm.
66 games have
Well,
shown he's a bench warmer.
well,
He's a hand clapper.
I'm 22. I'm 22 years old and I'm healthy, but guess what? I still have life insurance and I still make sure that it's there. So if Xavier Tillman's that for the Boston Celtics, I feel like the Celtics should be trying to pull any amounts of optimism they can out of this roster. So obviously we've
Oh,
seen
so
a
wait, you mentioned
digress.
22. Xavier Tillman's actually only 3 years older than you, Franco, and us. I guess I'm same age, but just
uh,
saying.
we're,
Just saying.
we're either unk status or we're young in NBA terms. But I think
I'm the rookie. I'm Shireman. Wait, no, Shireman's old. I'm Walsh. I'm Walsh.
yeah, we're looking at that, but I think there's still just saying that like in rotations you should be able to look at players like Xavier Tillman during these games. Who knows? Give them a 10 to 15 minute night during one of these stretches against the Brooklyn Nets, and who knows? Maybe that old player comes out, and maybe you start to put him into different lineups, and he starts playing that position that they had him playing last year, which was not out in the wings, playing down in the corners, playing down low, starting to really muck things up in the paint, be a stiffer body down low, able to able to set screens, be the board crasher, be that hustle player, that smaller, gritty 4-5 big that is just at the end of the bench, because you don't know when it comes down to playoffs and how injuries work out, and also just for the development of your players. Another one is Jordan Walsh, who I would expect to see some good performances out of. When I say good performances, I mean getting a lot of opportunities. Um, Playing around 20 to 25 minutes in some of these games for the rest of the season, and just being able to assess the talent that you have at the end of your bench. But in 2K terms, I would say that this team is hitting the sim button for the rest of the season after tonight's game.
I'm gonna say this though. I'm gonna say this. I think they're hitting the sim but no, I don't think they're doing that. I think they're forcing wins though. I think they're doing that, but they're going game by game and forcing wins. I think we're gonna see a lot of wins from this team still moving forward.
Definitely.
I think to add on to the Tillman takes that you guys had, I agree. I feel it. I love the point that you said, Seamus. Kind of why would you get rid of him if you're just gonna add another big? Maybe go a little bit younger, I guess. But I like your take with kind of what you said with Tillman. But my thing is too, I think he had a lot of bench time this year in games where you saw there was a lot of injuries and you expected a lot of playing time from him. He had an unexpected injury that he was out. So it's like, come on, man, you're getting playing time and you're not even playing. Like, what's going on? You know? So I think a big thing about that is kind of he's been a practice player. I mean, he's been that player that's you saw when Porzingis was coming down and they had the main Celtics practicing and had Porzingis go down there and practice. They sent Tillman with him. So Tillman's been nothing but a practice player this year. And you obviously see that is the case. And I agree. When he's on the floor, he's a lot more sluggish and it's definitely tough with Tillman. Tillman is a one where it's been rough this year. Sorry, you go along. I just had to give my take on Tillman really quick.
No, I think you made a great point there about Xavier Tillman and the fact of we've seen Al Horford and Kristaps Porzingis sit out similar games this season, which means they sat out the same game, but also staggered themselves within games, specifically back to backs, where we've seen this season Al Horford plays the first night of the back-to-back. Then all of a sudden, Al Horford is out the second night of the back-to-back. But, Porzingis, he's in. And then they'll switch spots. They'll go, Al Horford's out, Kristaps is in, and now Al Horford is in and Kristaps is out. We've seen that time and time again this season from the Boston Celtics, and yet Xavier Tillman, no role for him whatsoever. It's always Keita or Cornet. And for part of the season, we were specifically looking at Keita going, okay, maybe you're giving him some run out there to get him a little bit more development under his skin. Maybe ultimately he could be a player down the line that could give something to you for the Boston if you're the Boston Celtics, if he plays some of these important minutes early on in the season and get some development within his game. But that really was not the entire case with Keita, where the beginning of the season we thought he was just going to come out there and develop with the Boston Celtics. He became a legitimate rotation player at certain points of the season, depending on what the matchup was and depending on what the personnel looked like at the top of the roster, specifically talking about Horford and Porzingis. And in these occasions, Xavier Tillman, we always thought, is Joe Mazzulla going to put Xavier Tillman in there? Is this experimenting with Keita? What's going on? Why are we using Tillman? And now we're 66 games in. Keita and Cornet they've been used every other occasion with Horford and Porzingis out of the lineup. And that's just a great point by yourself, Griffin, is the fact that if Xavier Tillman, if he was going to be used, he would be used in these situations where injuries arise to big men on the Celtics roster, whether that is the Celtics resting Horford and Porzingis or Porzingis actually going through a legitimate injury. We just haven't seen Tillman whatsoever this season. And that 66 games in, I don't see that changing whatsoever. And that just kind of cast some doom and gloom onto the career of Xavier Tillman with the Boston Celtics in the future. Because if he's not doing something right now for the Celtics, I don't really see it in the future either, even though he's only 25 years old. But I will say, you guys were kind of answering my next question with what you guys said last, and specifically you, Franco. You went through the upcoming schedule for the Boston Celtics, and I'm just going to do it here again. I mean, looking at the schedule for the C's coming up, 8 of the next 9 games will be on the road. 8 of the next 9. The only game at home comes March 18th against the Brooklyn Nets. That will be on the Garden floor. However, Celtics have it back. Excuse me. Excuse me, folks. My goodness. The throat's getting the best of me here. But the Boston Celtics have a back-to-back coming up on the horizon against Miami, against Brooklyn, both on the road. The Celtics will take on the Brooklyn Nets in home. So they'll go to Brooklyn, play a game, come back to the Garden, play a game. That'll be the Celtics' only game at the Garden in the next 9 games. Then the Celtics go on a West Coast road trip. But the next 2 are back-to-back games, Miami and Brooklyn, the 14th and the 15th. Then you have Brooklyn at home, like I said, coming back home. But then you have the West Coast road trip if you're the Boston Celtics. Franco already mentioned this part of the schedule, but at Utah, at Portland, at Sacramento, at Phoenix, at San Antonio, and at Memphis. So that is just a West Coast road trip where they're going to be on the road for a while. However, looking at all the West Coast teams, I'm just not. I think this would be a more formidable schedule earlier in the season. Now you're looking at Utah. Portland might actually be the scary team on the schedule. If you're really looking at it, Sacramento, they're still in contention for a play-in spot, of course. Phoenix, what's going on there? San Antonio, what's going on there? Memphis, they're still in contention. But Franco is just going to sleep on this schedule right now for the Boston Celtics because he already said it. This schedule is full of teams the Celtics can essentially sleep on. And so my question to you guys is, what should we expect out of the Boston Celtics over the next 9 games going into the month of April? Because there's only 9 games left in the month of March, and a lot of them are really cupcake games, but a lot of them are still they're on the road, the Celtics, and we know how that can cause some trouble. But at this point in the season, what do you guys expect out of the next 9 games from the Boston Celtics, specifically the West Coast road trip after this little East stretch we're going to have in the next 3 games?
I think it's easy. I think I'm going to say it again instead of Franco, I love your point about simulating. I think you said that. But I think it's kind of going to be force wins. I think they're going to click on it and force wins. I think for the Boston Celtics, it's kind of a road trip where you want to go and get after it. Obviously, weaker teams. It wasn't like we were playing the harder road trip. We had that last West Coast trip, and it was a lot harder teams. So I think ultimately with the Boston Celtics, what you kind of want to see is you want to kind of see productiveness and kind of work on better habits. That's what I want to say. I think we've seen a lot of bad habits with this home stretch. Like I said, building up big leads and then just not keeping your foot on the gas pedal and just going down. So I'm hoping we could kind of work on better habits, build better habits throughout this road trip. And ultimately for me, I kind of want to see the Boston Celtics. Oh, I just had to take it. Franco, I'm doing the same thing. I had the same take.
You guys, what are your takes escaping in this magical basketball from Space Jam? Is this
It's how
what's
it is.
happening? Do I need to find this? What's going on here?
I know.
Basketball in here right now.
I have so many basketballs in my room. It's crazy. I don't know why, but off topic. Anyways, but I think ultimately the Boston Celtics play well on the road, especially this year. They do well. The Boston Celtics have a great fan base that travels well. So it's ultimately when you are away, a lot of the times it's a home game anyways, because you have so many fans there. So I think they'll have a good fan support throughout this road trip. And I think ultimately you see the Boston Celtics succeeding with this and doing well. And I want to see them kind of go through and get on a lengthy win streak. We talked about maybe, I know it doesn't happen often, but maybe this could be the start of that 16-game win streak. So we could see the Boston Celtics end up with only 19 losses. It'd be the story of the century for sure. But I'm all for it. And I think the Boston Celtics are going to do good. And I expect to see good things for them and just building better habits moving forward.
Yeah, I think that you'll see this team maybe lose less than a handful of games during this stretch. There might be one or two that slip away just due to a couple of resting players. I would expect Al Horford's left big toe to be sore during this road trip a couple of times.
That big toe, man.
That thing is inflamed, Franco. That thing is.
It's dangerous.
I mean, it is oozing pus right now. I mean, come on, we all know this.
Are we concerned about amputation possibly? Because this has been going on for a while. I'm just saying.
Our thoughts and prayers are with Al Horford when it comes to this left big toe.
Scary.
It's a scary injury. I think we should just keep him on ice for the rest of the season. But I think that there's definitely a chance for this team to gain that momentum and carry out potentially not saying they can go undefeated, but maybe they can eke out 60 wins this season. That should be their goal when they look at the rest of this stretch. Is out of these 16 games, if you can pull out 13 of them, you're walking away with a 60-22 record for the season. And I think that's almost the ideal spot you can see this team landing at.
See, and Franco, I'm glad you mentioned that, because my ending question here for this show tonight is 16 games left, 60 wins. It's not out of the realm of possibilities. The Boston Celtics need to go 13-3 in order to get to that 60 win mark. Do the Boston Celtics win 60 games this season? And Griffin, we mentioned earlier, you shoot the arrow up into the air and wait for it to drop down. But arrow to the head right now. Arrow to the head. Yes or no? Do the Boston Celtics win 60 games? Do they finish the season at least 3 and not 3-13, 13-3?
Yes.
We're not the Patriots around here. No 3-13 for them.
Yes, 100%. Yes. Yep. Yes.
I think I honestly feel pretty confident with being able to say that. I think that it's between the 58 to 60 win window is almost a guarantee. I'll guarantee 50 to 60, 58 to 60 window.
Mhm.
That's my flexibility. So I'm not getting myself into a pit. Well, if this
Wow.
team starts to get a little decides to drop a game or two extra that we wouldn't expect. But yeah, this team should expect to go have 13 wins in this stretch. I would really think uh, the only games you can really look at during this stretch are the Grizzlies, um, the Knicks, and possibly the Orlando Magic.
The
And
Suns too, I want to say. I want to say
yeah,
the Suns could give you a little trouble. Listen, I know they've been terrible, but you gotta look at their star power. You do. You do. You just gotta look at it. I know the Suns have been awful, but you always still gotta mention them a little bit. At least a little bit. Just a little bit.
David has some of the best comments, by the way.
He-
Just when they pop up on screen, it's like he's what happened to Ravens Orioles in here as well? Like we need Ravens Orioles and David. I mean, undefeated duo in the comment section. By
You
the
know
way,
what was my
just gotta
favorite?
say it.
You know what was my favorite? Last one when we had the shades on and he's like, I felt the aura 5 seconds before even entering. I love that. Love that. I loved it. Loved it.
But anyway, talking about the 60 win mark for the Boston Celtics. For me, I want the Celtics to finish with 60 wins. I think it would be satisfying to go, you know what, after all the pain and the heartache the Boston Celtics went through in January and all the conversations we had about the Boston Celtics, can they go back to back? Can they do this? Can they do that? I think it'd be quite symbolic to finish the season with 60 wins and kind of show people that, yeah, even even though the Celtics during the season had their troubles and went through their lulls, and everybody really doubted them at one point or the other. They still come out of the regular season with 60 wins, which is not an easy task whatsoever. I think that would be ultra satisfying from a Celtics fan perspective of the Celtics winning 60 games at the end of the season. But I do have to say this. I would not be shocked if this Boston Celtics club, just the way they've been with everything this season when it comes to just maintaining the second seed, not being fully dominant in every single game possible, I think it would kind of put a cherry on top of this season for this team to miss the 60 game win mark by one game. I think they're actually going to win 59 games, and it's going to
Yeah.
symbolize the season where we went, oh, we could have won those games, but we didn't try. With our effort wasn't there, or our intensity wasn't there entirely. Oh, yeah, we came up with the second seed. We weren't the first seed this year. The Cavaliers were the first seed. I think the Boston Celtics at the end of the year, I think they're going to come up with 59 wins and go, we just won one more of those
One, you're
Hornets
talking
games at
crazy.
the end. Or,
it's
You're
gonna be
talking
the last
it's gonna be
Sunday Hornets
60.
game at 1 p.m.
that is what I'm saying. That is what I'm saying. And we're not even going to have guys play that game. We're not. But it's going to be that game where it's Baylor Shireman, JD Davison.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. I'm taking this to offense now. You're talking smack on the main Celtics, and I don't
Well,
like
no,
it.
I'm just saying it's going to be
Give
a
us
main
60.
Celtics game. They're
Give
going
us
to come
60. No,
in.
the main
And
Celtics
no,
are
but
good.
they're going to
What are you
have the
talking
task of
about?
getting the Celtics to 60 wins.
Give us
That's what I'm
60.
saying.
Have faith. Have
That's
faith
all I'm saying.
in the young talent. Have faith in Baylor Sharman. Have faith in Mr. 30-point JD Davison. Have faith in them. Have
You know
faith.
what? I
Have faith.
actually like that.
60.
I like that.
Yeah,
I know
have faith.
I like that
Faith.
because for me personally, from the main Celtics perspective, you gotta just believe in them. I mean, if they're the only thing standing in the way of you and 60 wins, well, don't blame the main Celtics. Blame the game.
Can I say something too? Do you remember this? In the All-Star game, that G League team almost went on. Obviously, they got crushed that second round, but still, they almost went on to face that team Shaq. So we gotta remember that. I'm just saying the G Leaguers can hit you with some unexpected stuff for sure.
See David's comment too right now. Definitely feels on par with the season. Also, yes, opening night, missing the 3-point record by 1-3. I was thinking tonight, and I thought other times, just giving out some rambled thoughts here. But I'm surprised we never rivaled the 3-point record the rest of the season. Now we still have 16 games left. All right, but at the same time, when you are only one off of the record on opening night, and then the rest of the way, you just never sniff it again. I mean, tonight we shot more attempts than that night, but at the same time, those attempts tonight came within the flow of the game and not us just jacking threes at the end. The Celtics, of course, but I I'm surprised that the Celtics never hit that mark throughout the rest of the regular season. I'm surprised they didn't hit that mark tonight either.
I'm saying you guys have to have faith. 60 wins. All right, Franco, what side are you on? 59 or 60? Pick
Yeah,
it.
because Franco, there's a cop out. Because
Yep.
see, at Griffin here, I think Griffin, you're going optimistic. You're going, we're getting that 61 mark. I'm going, feels on par with the 59 that they would be, that the Celtics would notch that this year. But then Franco, you gave a cop out answer here. You went 58 to 60. Literally, when you're answering, I'm going, this is the answer I wish I could give, but I know the crowd will not love.
Pick. You know you want to be on my side. Come on. What you got?
You got to put them in
Have
the
faith.
middle.
Have faith.
It's like
Have
join
faith.
a side. Join a side. Here we go.
Come on. Have faith. You know it's going to be 60. Hey, you said 60. You said it originally. I'm just saying. I'm putting it out there. Give it 60.
You got to look at the schedule. Like, look to me. I'm okay. For
All
me,
right.
I'm like, are there 4 more losses on the schedule? Okay, are there 4 more? Are there 4 more losses on the
Okay.
schedule?
Yes, there's possibility for it, but are they going to do it? No, because they're going to dominate, and the Boston Celtics are going to have 60 wins. So join me. I'm telling you. Have faith in green. Bleed green.
Looking at the schedule though, I will say it's like try to find the losses. It's like at the end, you could pick.
Go 16-0. I'm telling you, the Boston Celtics. I'm telling you.
The rest is going to be tricky, but it's like there are a lot of these games you should win if you're the Boston Celtics.
Yeah,
Just saying.
should, but the Celtics do tend to blow games that they're expected to win. So I see your point, but I'm saying this year we're gonna have momentum going into playoffs, and it's gonna be a fun one. Give us 60 wins. And imagine, like you said, to kind of piggyback off of your point, Seamus, for the struggles in January to come from there to go to 60 wins, that's incredible. And I think the Boston Celtics are going to look at that and take that as a upper end and be like, look, we were there, but we surpassed that. And now look where we are. And look what we overcame to get it to 60 wins. Just saying that's a kind of a advantage point. And look how strong we are now. We built this, and now we have a lot of momentum going into playoffs. 60 wins.
62.
Ooh, dang,
I love it.
That was like a bit of that was way more than your range. That was like a hit him out of the park. We're talking about Justin earlier. That is a guarantee. I'll say this. I used to be the guarantee person on the show a couple years ago. Then it became Justin was out there with the guarantees a little bit, and Rob will make his guarantees as well from time to time. I don't know. I think he's more calculated.
I don't use the G word very often.
I love it.
No. See, also the ban word list. It's like if Franco wanted to ban guarantee, it's like first of all, you got to get all the legislation for it. Got to get all the petitions from Celtics Talk Weekly members. But that would be a word in which Franco would want to ban on this program. Is guaranteed. Turning point in January, that was lifted at one point when we were actually turning a corner. And then, what else was it? Yes. It was at the buzzer too. It was at the buzzer.
It was.
But I'm looking at the schedule though, just to make one last final comment here. It's like the Memphis game. Memphis is still going to be playing for seeding. Celtics probably not at that point in time. You're looking at Orlando could still be playing for seeding later on in the season. Phoenix is still trying to get up there. Sacramento. Those are all teams still playing for seeding. Otherwise, Miami, they're still playing for seeding. Otherwise, some of these other teams, they're just trying to tank. They're ultimately just trying to tank, and those teams are on the Celtics schedule. But considering how much the Celtics will be resting, we'll certainly have to see what some of those games even look like from a personnel perspective, because Celtics could be very well below full strength. But the 60 win mark is still very much 62. Yes, let's just throw it out there. The 62 win mark is still very much in sight for the Boston Celtics. They just have to do some work for it. They have to go what? They have to go 15 and 1, right? 15?
No. All right, give me 63 then. Give me 63 then. Come on.
16 and 0. No, you know we're gonna lose one of those Hornets games. 15 and 1.
Okay. All right, they're either going
62. We lose one of the Hornets games.
Give me 62 or 63. It could be either or. It could be either or. But I'll go with 62. I'll go with 62 because it's set in stone now, so it has to happen.
You guys make me seem like such a humbug, even though I have such a realistic opinion. 59,
I know.
59. 59.
No, get out of there. You can't.
I'm not drinking the Kool-Aid. I know what the Kool-Aid tastes like. The Celtics team doesn't always.
Yes, that's the typical.
Doesn't always sprinkle in all the sugar.
Yeah, that's the typical Celtics. But this is going to be a hot take. Right now with the Celtics, it's a new look Celtics. Look, we were in January. We were terrible. You guys know how that stretch. Now we shifted. We're a new look Celtics. We're gonna stop. Listen, I'm sprinkling positivity in the air. We're getting rid of all of our bad habits. We're gonna start closing out games, putting our foot on the gas pedal, and we're gonna have 62 wins. I'm telling you.
All right, we're coming back to these statements I'm gonna just say this: West Coast road trip might not happen. But there is a possibility the 60 win mark goes out the door before even the last week of the season. And if that happens, we'll be right back here pulling receipts. But that is going to do it for us here tonight on the Celtics Talk Weekly postgame show. Of course, the Boston Celtics losing to the Oklahoma City Thunder 112 to 118 on the Garden floor tonight. The Boston Celtics in their 7-game homestand with a 5-2 record, now playing the next 8 of the next 9 games on the road the Boston Celtics are. But we will have you covered for all of those games coming up on the Celtics road trip and even that one at home against the Brooklyn Nets here on the Celtics Talk Weekly postgame show. But that is going to do it for me here tonight. I am your host, Seamus Zarlingo. Tonight alongside of me, Nick, Franco, and Griffin Aldridge. As I always say here, thank you all for watching. And go Celtics.